Well, Mr. President, can I say, as I'm sure many of your speakers have said over the years, what an honour it is to speak at the Oxford Union. I'm sure they all mean it. I have to say, though, that I have two particular reasons why that gives me a great deal of personal satisfaction to be here. The first is that at my university, I was always too scared to be in the debating team. And the second is that at least part of the reason why I decided not to apply to an Oxford college is that when my sixth form comprehensive school trip came down to Balliol, we had to leave under something of a cloud. And I'd love to say more about that, obviously, but as we only have 8 minutes, let me press on to the substance of what has been said tonight. Now, it's been an interesting debate. At times, it's been an excellent debate. And can I first of all say how much I enjoyed, in particular, the contributions of Ellen and Eva, who set a standard that perhaps wasn't always followed through the rest of the evening. And to say it is interesting, and it's an unusual pleasure to be on the same side as Philip was. I don't think I have to call him the honourable member, as we're in a slightly different environment. Can I just say, please don't? I'm not going to make a habit of this. And as Kanye West and Justin Bieber, is that what his name is? Has been quoted. Let me quote Dido and say, I'm going down with this ship. So I'm staying here. Look, if this debate was, as Catherine seemed to want it to be, that this House doesn't like the effect of nuclear war, then I would be absolutely there in the proposition, because, I mean, the horror that you describe of Nagasaki and Hiroshima is truly grotesque. And it is actually, as I'm going to go on to say, it is because we want to avoid that we believe that the UK should retain nuclear weapons while other countries have them. And if it was that this House believes that nuclear weapons have no place in the 21st century across the world, then I would actually be proud to be on the proposition as well, because I think it is less realised than it should be that it was the Labour government, it was Margaret Beckett as the Foreign Secretary, who committed the UK, the first ever nuclear capable state, to commit to a overall goal of global zero, ahead of the United States. President Obama followed Margaret Beckett. That's not something you often hear said in debate, but it's absolutely true. America is behind that now, and it was a significant step forward. But the question again is how. And so the idea that Britain could give up nuclear weapons and that we would take some grand leap towards the overall goal of a nuclear-free world, I'm afraid it's just not true. Before I go on to expand on that, let me just very quickly, if I may, deal with some of the myths. I mean, this cyber threat. I mean, I think the idea, Catherine, that you were talking about was that in some way a submariner could go into the car park and pick up a USB port and ram it into the port of a submarine, and then it would become infected and it would stop. I mean, this is absolutely impossible to happen. The whole system is completely isolated in a way that it makes it impervious to cyber attack. Now, Eva, I thought your metaphor on was it a similar metaphor? I struggle on elephants was charming. But let me just point back to you. And of course, you can't prove a negative. But what if those elephants were particularly small elephants? And what if they were not non-existent in Oxford out of the train, but they were clearly there, and they kept coming towards the train, and every time you threw a rather large piece of paper, it hit that elephant on the head and went away. Now, you couldn't prove then that it was the pieces of paper that were deterring the elephants from entering the train, but you'd have a pretty good idea. And you might take a view that if you stopped throwing those pieces of paper which kept making the elephants turn around and go away, then your train would be less safe. And that is the calculation that people make with nuclear weapons. Of course, they're not there to deter ISIL. I mean, but for goodness sake, you know, our cyber investment isn't there to deter ISIL at the moment, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't make it. And Kate, it is an honour to speak on the same platform with you, finally. I mean, I have a lovely repartee with your Twitter account, which I'm not sure you do personally or not. But, I mean, look, this figure of 183 billion, I mean, it was 100 billion 12 months ago, then it was 167. I don't know where this 183 billion is coming from. It is the mass inflation of a most extraordinary scale. I mean, I have to say that the only way you can get to that kind of calculation is it's the equivalent of saying that the cost of a rifle includes the wages of the soldier who carries it, the cost of transporting it in, say, in a frigate that was that the soldier was being transported around on, his food. I mean, it is just not. There is no other public investment which is calculated on the way that you determine to do so. Now, I only have I'm into my final 2 minutes, so I want to just put the final case on this, that actually unilaterally getting rid of nuclear weapons, which the other side and some on my side seem to want to do, would make us less safe. It would make us actually less able to tackle poverty over the next decades because of the massive upfront decommissioning costs that it would cost to actually start scrapping this thing. And it would actually, and this is crucial, it would make us less able to achieve our goal of getting a world free of nuclear weapons. Philip was absolutely right to say that the UK has done a great deal in terms of reducing our deterrent to the absolute bare minimum. We got rid of alternative platforms, we got rid of our tactical nuclear weapons, we reduced the number of warheads, we are at the bare minimum. And what has been the effect? Absolutely nothing. Nothing has happened. We will only get to make significant progress if we are part of a hard-headed multilateral deal, which it looks very difficult at the moment with where Russia is. But the alternative is to give up now, hope that President Putin will think, oh, you know what? Britain's shown the lead. I'm getting rid of my nuclear weapons, and I'm not at all going to menace anyone in NATO because of that. They've shown the moral lead, and I'm going to follow. I mean, it is just not the way that the world works. So I say, instead of voting for this motion, I urge this House to oppose it and instead call for a fresh push on non-proliferation, on multilateral disarmament, led by the United Kingdom, actually putting the values that we share across this aisle into genuine practice, and to keep building the submarines, which just happen to be built in my constituency, and are supporting 7,500 of the most advanced manufacturing jobs that could never be replaced by any of the nonsense which has been put over on the other side. Thank you very much.